Losing friends, whether gradually or all at once, feels like a wound that pierces deeper than expected. But what if I told you that this very loss is not an end, but the awakening of a strength you never knew you had? This video dives headfirst into the raw, uncomfortable truth that solitude often signals a profound turning point in our growth. It challenges the instinct to see absence as emptiness and flips the script to reveal solitude as a sacred space, an opportunity to reconnect with your truest self. Drawing from timeless Stoic wisdom, we'll explore how silence, rather than social noise, exposes who truly values us, separating the superficial from the genuine. The Stoics teach us that growth means letting go, releasing the craving for approval, shrinking our social circles to only what enriches our soul, and finding treasure not in numbers, but in depth. It's in those quiet, difficult moments alone that we strip away masks and confront the reality of who stays when all else falls away. This is where true power grows, not from others, but from fierce inner fidelity. You'll see how embracing solitude is not avoidance, but an act of courage, a path that leads to peace, authenticity, and a clearer, more meaningful life. By the end, you'll understand that losing friends isn't a loss at all. It's the universe's invitation to rebuild from the inside out, awakening a strength that only solitude can forge. If you're ready to transform loneliness into your greatest ally, stay with me until the last word. If this is making sense to you so far, like the video and share it with someone who needs to hear this. The initial sting of lost connections can feel like a profound wound, a void that threatens to swallow the joy and confidence you once felt. We often react to this absence with a desperate urge to fill the silence, to reclaim what was lost, or to seek new validation, to mend the perceived fracture in our social fabric. This is a natural human response, wired into our ancient need for tribal belonging. But the Stoics, with their profound understanding of human nature and the fleeting dance of externals, invite us to pause and consider a radical reframing of this discomfort. They challenge us to look not at what has been taken, but at what has been revealed, not at what is missing, but at what now has the space to grow within you. The Stoic journey begins with a fundamental truth. We do not control the actions, choices, or affections of others. We can influence, we can express, we can build, but ultimately, the agency of another human being lies solely within their own sphere of control. This realization, often uncomfortable, is the bedrock of inner peace. When a friendship fades, whether through disagreement, distance, or simply a divergence of paths, the initial pain is often compounded by a sense of injustice, confusion, or self-blame. What did I do wrong, we might ask? Why did they leave? While introspection is valuable, dwelling on these questions, when the answer lies outside our control, becomes a source of endless suffering. This is where the Stoic dichotomy of control becomes our compass. We cannot control the past, nor can we force someone to remain in our lives. What we can control, however, are our perceptions, our judgments, and our responses. We can choose how we interpret this loss. We can choose to see it not as a personal failing, but as a natural, albeit painful, process of life. Rivers change course, seasons shift, and so too do human relationships. To resist this natural flow is to thrash against the current, exhausting ourselves pointlessly. Embracing this reality isn't about becoming indifferent or cold. It's about cultivating a profound inner resilience. It's about understanding that our well-being and happiness are not commodities held hostage by the presence or absence of external relationships. True contentment, the Stoics teach, is an internal affair, built upon the foundation of our character and our alignment with reason and virtue. When we lose friends, we are presented with an uninvited, yet potent opportunity to test the strength of this internal foundation. Solitude, when seen through the Stoic lens, transforms from a barren wasteland into a fertile ground. It becomes a crucible where your truest self is forged. In the constant hum of social interaction, we often wear masks, adapt our behavior, or dilute our authentic selves to fit in, to be liked, to maintain harmony. This isn't necessarily malicious. It's a survival mechanism. But when the noise of others fades, when the mirror of external validation is removed, what remains? This is the profound question Solitude asks, and in its asking, it offers the most vital answers. Imagine a sculptor trying to perfect their work in a crowded, bustling marketplace. Distractions abound, opinions are shouted, and the very act of focused creation is constantly interrupted. Now imagine that same sculptor retreating to a quiet, private studio. Here, with only their tools and their vision, they can focus intently, listen to the stone, and bring their artistic intention to life without external interference. Solitude is that studio for the soul. It provides the necessary quiet for deep self-reflection, for examining your values, your fears, your ambitions, and your unique purpose. Without the pressure to perform or conform, you can begin to excavate the layers of expectation and approximation to uncover the authentic core of who you are. This introspective journey is not always comfortable. It can be challenging to sit with your unvarnished thoughts, to confront insecurities that were easily masked by social engagement, or to acknowledge truths about yourself that you'd rather ignore. But this difficult work is precisely where strength is born. It is in these quiet, often uncomfortable moments that you begin to develop your inner citadel, a metaphorical fortress of character and conviction that cannot be breached by external circumstances, including the comings and goings of others. This is where you learn to rely on your own judgment, to trust your own moral compass, and to find contentment within your own being. Furthermore, solitude sharpens your discernment. When you're no longer surrounded by a constant stream of company, you gain perspective on the nature of your past relationships. You begin to distinguish between those who genuinely valued you for who you were and those who simply enjoyed your presence for what it brought to their lives. Be it entertainment, validation, convenience, or a reflection of their own self-image. It's not a judgment of them, but an objective assessment of the dynamic. Were these relationships truly reciprocal, built on mutual respect and shared values, or were they more transactional, sustained by a delicate balance of unspoken expectations? The Stoics cautioned against associating with those who would corrupt your character or distract you from your pursuit of virtue. Seneca famously wrote, "Associate with those who will improve you." Solitude provides the space to evaluate retrospectively whether your past associations were truly elevating, or if some, perhaps subtly, pulled you away from your best self. This isn't about blaming anyone. It's about learning. It's about recognizing the energetic costs of certain relationships and understanding the profound benefits of selective, intentional connection. This period of social thinning is not a punishment, it is a purification. It strips away the superficial, leaving you with a clearer understanding of what genuine connection truly entails. You learn that quantity is no measure of quality, and that a single, authentic, deeply nourishing friendship is worth more than 100 casual acquaintances. This doesn't mean you become a hermit, but rather that your future social engagements will be chosen with greater wisdom and intention. You become less concerned with the friend count and more focused on the depth and mutual enrichment of your bonds. One of the most liberating aspects of embracing solitude is the freedom it grants from the incessant craving for external approval. So much of our social behavior, consciously or unconsciously, is driven by a desire to be liked, accepted, and validated by others. We tailor our opinions, temper our true feelings, and even compromise our values to maintain a certain image or secure a place within a group. This constant pursuit of external affirmation is a form of enslavement, making our inner peace contingent upon the unpredictable whims and judgments of others. The Stoic path is one of radical self-possession. It teaches that your worth is inherent, not granted by others. Your value is derived from your character, your integrity, and your commitment to living virtuously, not from the opinions or presence of any external entity. When you spend time in solitude, away from the feedback loop of social validation, you are forced to confront your own internal barometer of worth. You learn to trust your own sense of what is right, what is good, and what truly matters. This self-reliance breaks the chains of approval seeking. Imagine a plant that has always grown in the shade, constantly stretching and twisting its leaves to catch glimpses of sunlight filtering through denser foliage. Its growth is distorted, dependent on the larger trees around it. Now imagine that plant is transplanted into an open field, bathed directly in the sun. It can now grow upward, unencumbered, unfolding its leaves in their natural form. Solitude is like that open field for the soul. It allows you to grow in your own direction, fueled by your own internal light, rather than constantly seeking the reflected light of others' approval. This newfound freedom from approval seeking has profound implications for how you navigate the world and how you choose future connections. When you are no longer desperate for company, you become discerning. You stop chasing those who deplete you and start attracting those who resonate with your authentic self. You set boundaries more firmly because your sense of self-worth is no longer threatened by the prospect of rejection. You become a beacon of integrity, drawing to you individuals who appreciate genuine connection over superficial pleasantries. Moreover, solitude is not merely an absence of others. It is an active presence of self. It is a time for the deliberate cultivation of Stoic virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Wisdom flourishes in quiet reflection. It's the time to read, to learn, to contemplate philosophical principles, and to apply them to your own life experiences. Without the constant chatter of social interaction, your mind is free to engage in deeper thought, to analyze patterns, and to develop a clearer understanding of the world and your place within it. Courage is honed when you face your own fears and vulnerabilities without external distraction or the comforting presence of friends. It takes courage to sit with discomfort, to process grief, to acknowledge past mistakes, and to plan for a future that is entirely your own making. This isn't just physical bravery. its moral and intellectual fortitude. Of justice in solitude might seem counterintuitive, as justice often pertains to our interactions with others. But it begins with self-justice, being fair to yourself, recognizing your own worth, setting healthy boundaries, and treating your own mind and body with respect. It also involves honestly assessing your past interactions and understanding where you contributed to dynamics without self-condemnation. Temperance, or self-control, is profoundly exercised in solitude. It's the opportunity to regulate your desires, to practice discipline, and to resist impulses that might lead to distraction or fleeting pleasures. This could mean establishing routines, focusing on tasks, or simply learning to be content with less external stimulation. In essence, solitude becomes your personal gymnasium for virtue. Just as an athlete trains diligently alone to improve their physical prowess, you train your mind and character in the quiet hours, strengthening your inner being. This dedicated practice makes you more robust, more resilient, and more capable of navigating life's challenges, both with others and within yourself. This journey of embracing solitude is an act of profound courage, not avoidance. It takes courage to break away from the herd mentality, to stand alone in your convictions, and to trust your own inner voice above the cacophony of external expectations. It's easy to be swept along by social currents, to follow trends, and to seek comfort in numbers. But true power, as the Stoics teach, comes from an unwavering inner fidelity, a commitment to your own principles, and a deep self-respect that is not dependent on anyone else's opinion. This fierce inner fidelity is the bedrock upon which you can rebuild your life, your relationships, and your sense of purpose. When you finally emerge from this transformative period of solitude, you do so not as a diminished version of yourself, but as a more authentic, stronger, and more discerning individual. You carry with you a calm confidence that emanates from within, unshakable by the changing tides of social dynamics. The loss of friends, therefore, was never truly a loss. It was an alchemical process designed by the universe to strip away the dross and reveal the pure gold of your own inner strength. It was an invitation to shed what no longer served your highest growth, to clear the path for deeper self-discovery, and to cultivate a more profound and sustainable sense of peace. So, what does this grand transformation lead to? It leads to a life lived with unshakable inner peace, because your happiness is no longer held hostage by external circumstances. It leads to authenticity, where your outer life aligns seamlessly with your inner values. And perhaps most importantly, it leads to a clearer, more meaningful life, because the distractions have been stripped away, allowing your true purpose to shine forth. Remember, the Stoics understood that life is a series of changes, of arrivals and departures. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminded himself and us that you have the power to withdraw into yourself whenever you wish. For nowhere can a person find a more peaceful and untroubled retreat than in their own soul. The loss of friends is not a void to be frantically filled, but an invitation to withdraw into that sacred space, to rebuild from the inside out, and to discover a strength that only solitude can truly forge. Will you choose to see the absence not as an ending, but as the expansive beginning of your truest self? Will you bravely enter the quiet studio of your own being and sculpt the masterpiece of a life lived with fierce inner fidelity. If this message resonated with you, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel for more Stoic insights, and leaving a comment below to share your thoughts on how solitude has shaped your journey.